The numbers on ARMA REFORGER have been skyrocketing in 2025, which coincides with the May 1.4 update on REFORGER's 3-year anniversary that finally included mod support for PlayStation 5 players. WCS servers were alight with activity, and it sounds like the REFORGER scene on console has been absolutely booming. And even the community on PC has steadily grown since then, running parallel to ARMA 3's numbers in both current and 24-hour player counts. Now, I'm not really sure what's more impressive to me, the fact that ARMA 3 is over 11 years old and still has one of the most active communities in the sandbox shooter space, or the fact that ARMA REFORGER has closed the gap in such a short span of time relative to its launch date. These numbers are even more impressive on console, showing metrics like 125,000 unique players on PS5 alone since the 1.4 update in May, which is positively fucking bananas. Bohemia Interactive have reported 2.1 million copies sold overall on all platforms. And that, my friends, is not an insignificant number, especially when you compare that to a large Milsim game like Squad, who have sold about 7 million copies in its entire 10-year run. It is clear that the hunger for a sandbox shooter on console is there, and as many comments have alluded to, there's simply nothing like ARMA on console. Regardless of the numbers, I am still presented with the question on an almost daily basis in my comments of which ARMA they should buy and play and why. These must be PC people commenting because obviously ARMA 3 is only on PC, so if you only have a console, then your choice is pretty apparent. REFORGER is your only move. Now, if you're on PC and still on the fence, even after all the content that exists out there, let me put it as plainly as I can. Both of these titles are insanely good for their own respective reasons, and how you want to play matters because they both have elements within them that outshine the other. But what does that mean? Well, let's say you're a PC player that wants to only play by themselves against the AI in a literal sandbox where they can download mods and experiment with them offline without having to deal with other players, while also having immediate access to one of the most powerful, deep, and utilitarian 3D mission editors available in any game ever made. ARMA 3 would be the choice for you. It will look daunting at first, but honestly, placing down a couple squads, giving them a move waypoint at each other, and hitting start will yield replayability like you wouldn't believe. And that's just the start. Throw in a few more squads, throw in some vehicles, give them some more waypoints, and expand the map, and you're gonna have replayability like you wouldn't know what to do with. The menus and the user interface are very intuitive, sleek, simple, and show you everything pretty much at a glance. Additionally, customizing the attributes of assets you place down is as simple as double-clicking on it, and you can then change everything about that unit to include entering the virtual arsenal and spending a few billion hours creating the perfect loadout with all the base game gear and modded gear you have downloaded. You can, of course, experiment to your heart's content with weapons, vehicles, aircraft, you fucking name it. Go where you want, do what you want, and build what you want. Should you want to get deeper, there are thousands of videos and articles that will walk you through how to create your own custom scenarios to be enjoyed by yourself or with friends in multiplayer. Another huge selling point for ARMA 3 is that since the game has aged, the modding scene has matured to a point that I don't think we've even seen the peak of it. Every week, it seems like new mechanics we hadn't even realized we even needed get added in, or new vehicles and weapons drop that completely change the tone of the game entirely. It is seriously unhinged the level of depth this modding scene has developed into, and for some that can be pretty daunting, which is why I've built this YouTube channel to cover all of those amazing mods and how they function. If you're wondering what mods new players should start out with, check out the video popping up on the screen right here. ARMA 3's multiplayer scene is not as publicly exciting, and I will admit, the official servers are still up and many people do choose to play there with no mods. But the vast majority of the player base that likes playing with friends have all moved to private units that host their own custom servers with their own custom mod lists. But playing with other players in ARMA 3 against the AI, or just messing around, is seriously some of the most fun I think I've ever had in gaming, ever. And I've been playing games for a long time. Multi-crewing tanks with your buddies, or getting everyone on their own aircraft for massive shows of force, or just flying around the beautiful maps is seriously the stuff nostalgia is made of. Many players will cite that ARMA 3's performance is one of the biggest negatives due to how CPU intensive it is, but the recent multi-threading update by the tiny ARMA 3 dev team has really helped a lot of players see increased performance on more modern systems, which has breathed a lot of new life back into ARMA 3 and has honestly never been a better time to play and enjoy ARMA 3, either alone or with friends. ARMA 3 is also run on essentially a 20-year-old game engine called Real Virtuality, and you can see that it basically is at its limits with what it can produce without impacting performance. To me though, these visuals are still beautiful. The lighting is warm and inviting and has been home to me and tens of thousands of other players for years now. So even though ARMA 3 has its flaws, it is still a powerhouse of a game that will absolutely live on another 5 or 6 years, if not more, thanks to the modding scene and Bohemia's tiny dev team keeping us fed with platform updates. Now, when it comes to multiplayer, ARMA REFORGER is the complete opposite. The queues on getting into these multiplayer lobbies at peak hours are fucking bonkers, but the demand for playing is there, and that means the accessibility to new players who want to dive in and see what Milsim multiplayer is like in REFORGER has never been easier. The game itself is cross-platform, meaning console and PC players can join in together and wage war against one another or the AI. There are scenario-based games like Conflict that are essentially large capture the objective scenarios, pitting players against the AI or against other players to control sectors, seize supply and communication lines, and dominate the battle space. Players can use these gathered supplies to build up fortifications to defend these conquered areas, and cooperation of players is paramount if a team is to win. It honestly only takes a handful of coordinated players to completely wipe out an uncoordinated team that isn't communicating or working together. This leads me to what is more of a negative aspect to me, and that is the complete reliance on others to not be a bunch of dipshits in order to do anything. Many players have aired frustrations with new players not understanding the game mechanics and steal all of that hard-earned, gathered supplies to build massive kits and buy vehicles only to immediately die themselves and waste everyone's time and energy. As a lifelong PC player and enjoyer of ARMA since its inception, the PC community is not devoid of its fucktard players that ruin the experiences for others. We're simply not. We've got them. But when the console community is noticeably younger, the percentage of players that are in it for themselves or simply aim to ruin everyone else's time by team killing or acting like a buffoon increases drastically, which drives a lot of people into locked servers. So my advice is to go into multiplayer with a team player mindset, and it will benefit all players involved, especially you. REFORGER runs on a newer game engine than ARMA 3, which is called the Infusion engine. It's been built from the ground up by Bohemia Interactive and is what all future games, ARMA 4 included, will run on. Anyone that played DayZ standalone will be right at home, as that game was the first iteration of some of the modules we now see used in REFORGER. I never played DayZ, and I will admit the jump to REFORGER from ARMA 3 takes a lot of getting used to for me personally. It feels like a completely different game with how we interact with the world around us, but again, that's a me issue and not a negative towards the REFORGER by any means. For some, this is a wonderful change because Infusion can handle a lot happening at once. And if you've got a decent machine, you're going to be enjoying some insane engagements with lots of assets and virtually no impact on your performance. Something ARMA 3 can only dream of doing. Additionally, the graphics in ARMA REFORGER are much more modern, detailed, and are honestly gorgeous to look at, making for some thrilling, visceral gameplay and firefights. The sound design in ARMA REFORGER is also god tier, something ARMA 3 lacked for the longest time, until mods like JSRS and Dynasound were available on the workshop. The biggest negative about REFORGER in my eyes is the lack of AI development and ability to really do a whole lot from a single player aspect. This one was designed to be a team game, And you can definitely get away with doing more lone wolf stuff in ARMA 3, especially since the AI in 3 is a lot more refined and capable. Granted, it's definitely not perfect either, and it does dumb shit on the regular. Reforger's AI is pretty lifeless at times, but does express a little bit more self-preservation than we're used to seeing, which is a nice change of pace. So to conclude this simply, if you want the more feature-complete game with a matured, robust modding scene and the best PvE experience possible out of the box, then ARMA 3 is the game for you. The Eden Editor is without a doubt the most powerful scenario design tool I have ever seen in a game, and it's awesome to visually see the mission you're making in real time. And the customization and amount of things you can do with modules and the synchronization ability is literally endless. Add on to that, there's almost 12 years of videos, tutorials, and documentation available to learn from. The game itself still looks incredible after all of this time, and the active modding scene means ARMA 3 is going nowhere anytime soon. Now, if you want the best PvP experience out of the box, then ARMA REFORGER is your game. You won't find the same depth and customization with Game Master as you will with ARMA 3 Eden Editor, but you will find a much more modern feeling and looking game that has a rising modding community. Additionally, many of the mods developed in REFORGER will easily be ported over to ARMA 4 on its launch, meaning ARMA 4 will have a much more robust modding scene at its launch than ARMA 3 did. This means ARMA 4 will be at a more feature-complete state than ARMA 3 was sooner in its life cycle. At least we hope so. I hope this video has helped you decide on which ARMA is best for you based on what you're looking for out of it. Thank you to my incredible patrons and channel members for their support of me and the channel. If you want to join these wonderful individuals, see the link in the description below. ARMA is an undying sandbox of war and carnage, and no matter which one you choose to call your home, you will be amongst a player base that wants more than just chaos. They want team play and cohesion while laying waste to their enemies. What more can a player ask for? Thank you for your time and for watching, and I will see you in the next video.